Hello and welcome to In the Envelope, an awards podcast. I am your host, Jack Smart, awards editor at Backstage. I'm here to give you a front row seat to the industry's most exciting awards races. Who is in the running? What makes awards-worthy film and television? How can you, listener, win a statue of your own? We're sitting down with actors to get that insider's perspective on these questions and more, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get a tantalizing glimpse in the envelope.
With theater, you have to go back to that place and remake it every night. When we performed that show, like Beyonce was there or like Barack Obama was there every single night.
Here we are for episode 2 of season 2 of In the Envelope.
Yeah, 2 of 2.
Podcast. I am so thrilled about today's. Really, truly.
Yeah,
this has been, I don't know if you know how special this is for me.
I could tell in the interview.
Okay, good. Leslie Odom Jr., our guest today, I hate to say we go way back, but like I interviewed him for Backstage cover story at the height of the Hamilton frenzy. Yeah. It was during the Hamilton frenzy. It was this moment, as I think we talk about in this interview, of one of the biggest pop culture phenomenons ever is happening, and he's at the center of it. He's the narrator and one of the main characters in the show. And as the Tony Award nominations are coming, and then the Tony Award nominations come out, and they break all these records, and then the Tony Awards are happening, and to be in New York then, to be in the Broadway community then, at least on the fringes of the Broadway community then, holding my microphone.
Yeah.
It was really special.
Yeah.
Boy, he, of course, then went on to win the Tony Award for leading actor in a musical. For those of you who don't know, this musical called Hamilton. And things, of course, are going to change when that happens and when you then check in with someone a year and a half later.
Well, and especially as you allude to in the interview, that he could have gone one of two directions and he chose Hamilton. So it was such a great career move.
And that's sort of what I love about Leslie's trajectory in his career is that there's actually several forks in the road like that. And the first one being, as he details in this interview, choosing to go out for that audition for Rent on Broadway, to skip school, to go and audition for Rent and an open call that he found in Backstage magazine, and electing to do that for 3 months instead of doing school, which gave him, of course, an array of opportunities, obviously. And it's Rent. It's like,
really, he owes everything to Backstage, to be fair.
Yes, he does. And he has said as much, and that's why he's kind of, I don't want to say that we're best friends, but he has indicated that, Backstage is a friend. Yeah. And we collectively, Backstage, are fans of his, and he's a fan of us.
Well, not to be a sycophant, but everyone that comes on the podcast is very, very complimentary and,
Not to be a sycophant is very applicable to today's episode, where I am a sycophant.
No, it's not too bad, but I can... I mean, you just clearly have an admiration for his work and Hamilton as a piece. Yeah, exactly.
And we did get to hear the very spine-tingling, I thought, of him just reciting the first lines of Hamilton.
Yeah, listen out for that. And, of course, now he's in this huge movie.
Yes, that's right. Kenneth Branagh's adaptation of Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express from 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, with the most ridiculous cast list ever.
Ridiculous cast. And it was cool to hear about how he got involved in that, because that's huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge, big first step to go from Tony-winning Broadway star to bona fide movie star.
Yeah.
A lot has changed since our last interview, and it's just going to be good to, do like a periodic check-in with Leslie Odom.
Yeah, we'll do another one in a couple of years' time when his career's taken off post this interview.
That's exactly right. In fact, we've interviewed him about theater and now about film, so maybe next time it'll be about TV.
Yeah.
There we go. We should go to our proper intro now.
Okay, yeah, I think it's time.
All right, here we go. Leslie Odom Jr. is the 2016 Tony Award winner for Best Actor in a Musical for originating the role of Aaron Burr in Lin-Manuel Miranda's hit musical Hamilton. He's appeared on the big and small screens in everything from Smash to the upcoming adaptation of Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express from 20th Century Fox. He is also a huge fan of Backstage. Here it is, our interview with Leslie Odom Jr. You and I, the time has passed, first of all.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about where you were when we spoke for that cover story and where you are now.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
That time of your life, I don't even know if you have enough hindsight to really think about it, but that was such a moment.
I don't, but what I do know is how helpful that cover was, and that's truly,
Really?
and how and how helpful, what a helpful moment that was.
That's great.
Yeah, my life, like, it feels very busy, but it doesn't necessarily feel, on the inside, it doesn't feel all that different. It just feels busy.
On the inside, yeah. I guess it's just busier. Well,
It's a lot busier.
Is it busier than an eight times a week schedule?
Man, probably not.
Probably not that.
Yeah.
You were like injured. I remember you were like, oh, I'm working on this injury, and like obviously still in the like basically physical therapy and like.
Yeah. Should we save all this for the podcast?
Recording?
Have we gone into the podcast by accident?
Yeah, we're recording, right, Jamie? Yeah, Sam says yes.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I think we got some of that.
Okay. We can keep going. I didn't know if you. Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we can recap that. I actually just reread that cover story because I hadn't read it in a long time.
Oh my gosh.
And man, I forgot that I wrote a lead. The very first sentence of that story was like parodying the lyrics of Hamilton, and it was like rhyming and everything.
Was it really?
Like a little embarrassing that I did that, but
I don't remember that.
I mean, and we had some great photos, and that's really good to hear that you. I mean, obviously, we should kind of rehash a little bit,
okay?
Because you're a fan of Backstage.
Yes.
And part of the reason we booked you for this cover was because we knew we were interested in talking to each other.
Yeah. No. When I was first starting out, a mentor of mine, a teacher of mine, told me when I wanted to start going on auditions and stuff. She said, you got to get yourself a Backstage. That's how you'll find out where open calls are and things like that. And so I found my Rent audition in Backstage.
Mm-hmm. And you skipped you were in high school.
I was in high school. Yeah. We condense the story when we tell it. But the actual first audition I went on, I also found in Backstage. It was for Lion King. I didn't get the Lion King. Okay. But Rent was my very second audition.
And that was Lion King on Broadway, I assume.
Yeah. Lion King on Broadway. Was it Lion King on Broadway? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Lion King on Broadway. And I didn't get that, but then the next audition And
you were 17?
Yeah. 16 when I went to the audition, 17 when I booked it.
Wow.
And it's all thanks to Backstage.
Yes. And you were put through that ringer of, it wasn't a long run in Rent, was it?
For me, no, it was about 3 months. I was,
3 months.
But,
That's
remember... Yeah, and I was at 16. The longest show I'd done was a weekend.
Yeah,
As
a high school.
Yeah, maybe I'd done a few weekends in a row, but to do, 100 shows or something, 125, however many shows I did, I was over 100. Yeah. That was, that was very, very new.
Yeah, and then it was Carnegie Mellon. And you have a lot of, obviously, you have a lot of like friends from that program. I believe Josh Gad is one of them.
That's right. Yeah, Josh and I were in the same class. And
that's where Billy Porter went.
It is.
And
Renee Lee Goldsberry.
Danae.
Panina. My brain, you guys forgive me. Panini Miller. My sweet Patina. She was my little sister when I was when you're a senior, they give you like a little brother or a little sister.
You're cool.
And Patina was my little sister. Who else? Joe Manganiello, Matt Bomer.
Oh, right.
Zachary Quinto.
It's an insane just program for musical theater stars. Yeah. But then, correct me if I'm wrong, it was 10 or so years of working in LA. And the way you described it was coloring within the lines, like kind of just doing what is asked of you and not really taking any huge risks as an actor, especially in the audition room.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until you gave yourself permission to be dangerous, to take a risk. And I think the point you made about like in school, you want to do everything by the books. You want to do everything right in order to get the A.
Yep.
But that's not necessarily what makes you jump forward in your career in the real world.
Yeah, if I could, I had a wonderful education. I loved Carnegie, but if I could change one thing, and it's very controversial, I don't know if many professors would go for it because, because their egos and stuff are involved a tiny bit. But I would make it pass fail.
Yeah,
because I don't think that you should be graded on art. I think it's about showing up, and what you put into it. You'll get out as much as you put into it. And if I was a professor, it's like I wouldn't want to hold those keys to. That's teaching the students that it's going to be up to you. However much you put into this education, it doesn't matter to me. It should matter to you. And so if you show up, you pass.
Yeah.
The only way your grade goes below an A or below a P is if you don't come.
Yeah. Not
because
yeah.
I'm about to go to, it's how, especially like with things, with the schedule, how it is and sort of how my life has changed. I remind myself of that all the time. I'm reminding myself of that on the way here. It's like I'm exhausted and, half my brain, a third of my brain is in LA, a third of my brain is in London, part of me is here, fourth of me is in this room. But when I'm here with you, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm fully present. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
It's like, I wish that you could teach that is enough. Even if you show up unprepared, even showing up slightly tired, even showing up, it's just being there.
Yeah.
My trainer was telling me that, last year during the whole Hamilton process that, because I was working out pretty heavy too, in addition to the show. And he was like, I love it. He said, I'm never going to measure like what weights you're lifting, like the amount of weights you're lifting today. He said, you're 100%, you're going to give me 100% every day that you're in here. But that's going to change based on the sleep you had, based on what injuries you're nursing. You know what I mean? So give me 100% of where you are today.
Yeah.
Right? And so
that very easily applies to acting.
For sure. Yeah. It applied to the show all the I applied directly to the show. It was, what is my 100% for this matinee?
Yeah.
What is my 100% for this 9th show of the week?
Yeah.
What's my maximum for right here? I'm not comparing it to yesterday or, when the president was here.
Or when the president was here.
What is my 100% today? And it was always enough.
Yeah. And you have to sit with that. You have to know that it's enough.
That's right.
I think it was Jonathan Groff also, who I talked to about Hamilton, who said, sometimes you have to forgive yourself I think he was talking specifically about like not hitting the note correctly or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
If you need to walk off stage and go, all right, I'm just going to let that go.
For sure. And when you have...
Be kind.
Oh, yeah. You have to be kind to yourself about that. And you have to... oftentimes what I'll do is I'll put myself on the opposite end as an audience member of a performer that I really love, or a performer that I know is giving me all that they can give me. I don't give a damn if they crack. Yeah. I don't care about that at all. Sure. I don't care about a tiny imperfection. I'm so happy that they're there. I'm so happy that they're, you know what I mean, that they're giving, that they 100%. Came, that they showed up today, you know? And so like I'm not grading them in that way.
Yeah.
We have to be as kind to ourselves as we are to the people that we love.
Yeah, and I love hearing about the people that you admire and look up to, and the performances that inspired you.
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering if there's been any recent ones.
Recent ones. I love Josh's performance in Murder on the Orient Express. Josh Gad.
Yes.
I've seen Josh do. We haven't worked together since college. We worked together a bit in college because Josh even then was creating his own work and creating opportunities for us to work and work on stuff while we were in school. But we've certainly seen each other and hung out a ton of times, but we hadn't worked. This was the first time we'd worked together, and so to see him, almost 15 years in the film business really has done to his work, and how gutsy he is and how daring he is, and then to see the final product of it, I think it's some of his finest work that he's done since we got out of school.
Totally.
And Josh, like me, I think I love to hear, you know, from everybody, about, you know, I love to, after when you put in hard work and you know, and you are showing it to the world, I love to have discussions about it and like, you know, is it good? Is it bad? You know, and I don't mind if it's like, you know, I'm not going to always be great. You know what I mean? So it's like,
no, that's the guarantee. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like,
always.
if it's not great, like, let's talk about why. What wasn't successful? Let me, like, you know, when I'm talking to my friends and talking shop, this is why, you know, and here's what I'm working on, and I'm going to fix that. I'm going to get better next time. But the people that, you know, it means probably the most to me outside of my family is my classmates.
Yeah.
If I can still impress them,
right.
People that have known me since I was 17, 18 years old, if I can show them a side of myself that they've never seen, you know, Josh would come to see Hamilton. He came to see Hamilton 3 or 4 times. And, you know, and it meant so much to me that he was able to see growth in my work. And so, yeah, you know, right. I think Josh in this film is doing work that inspires me. There's always something that I'm inspired by. I went to see, I haven't had a chance to see a ton of work, but I went to see Meteor Shower the other night, and Laura's a friend of mine, Benanti's a friend of mine, and so to see her up there after she's given birth to her baby, and to see what she's sort of, you know, what she's working on, and how, you know, how that's affected her life. Is she, you know, is she freer? Is she, you know, whatever this situation is, like that's inspiring to me to see, you know, to see somebody fold in their life experiences, to see how, you know, those marriage and kids and divorces, you know, how those things, how people fold that into their work, if it affects their work at all.
Well, that's interesting, because I really wanted to congratulations on your newborn child.
Thank you very much.
But I am curious about how that affects your artistry.
It affects my
folding it into your depictions of humanity.
Yeah, I mean, it's new all the time, but the latest way on stage when I'm singing, I can sometimes, because I've been doing a lot more concert work than ever, you know, since I left the show. That's what I've been doing. 80% of my time has been concerts, and music, and I don't know what my little girl's gonna end up doing. She's 6 months old, and I don't really care. You know, I want to do something that she loves, right? But, you know, thinking like, you know, so I wonder if she wants to be a performer, if she wants to be a singer, right? How, you know, it makes me want to be a model of what that should look like, right? So it's like, how do you teach a little kid to mine for truth or to be honest on stage if you're not doing that?
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm thinking about that now. It's like, what is Lucy gonna think? You know, am I being...
You're like holding yourself to a higher standard.
Exactly.
From her perspective almost. Right. Even though she's far too young to have that perspective.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And you just know one day, I mean, she's coming from 2 performer parents. Like it's not going to be not on the table. She's going to be a performer of some sort.
She'll certainly have, I mean, we hope, you know, she certainly has the potential to have an eye at the very least, because she'll, you know, we're going to take her to so many things.
Yeah.
So she'll have, hopefully she'll have great taste.
Right. Well, what else? I mean, I suppose we shouldn't like exactly gloss over Hamilton, but since Hamilton has been, what other things are being folded into your life? What else has changed since we had that interview? We'll get into like becoming a movie star, you know?
Right. What else? I mean, sort of, you know, the biggest thing is just like it's having for the time being anyway, you know, having a place in society, having a position, having a station, it feels like, right? Because I mean, you just go from virtual anonymity to like, you know, being recognized quite frequently, or, you know, and people in particular, you know, because Hamilton was this thing that set a table for people. It set a table for people of different generations, different cultural backgrounds to have a conversation with each other. To, you know, there was this thing that people bonded over. You know, it's bonded. People my age share it with their parents and their children. Yeah, there's not many things that, I mean, those are special things. There's like Disney World, And, you know, there's a few things
Totally.
in life that we share across generations.
Because they're just huge parts of pop culture.
Right? And so Hamilton is one of those things. And so people feel a really special, particular way about it because they share it with their kids.
Because it unites people. That's what it is.
It's like, you know, me and my kids listen to this on the way to school, or you know, it's the only thing my kid listens to. My kid got me into it. So that position is new, you know, now being outside of the show and sort of out in the world.
Right. Looking back. Or not quite looking back, I guess.
Not looking back, but just, you know, there's a part of when you're doing 8 shows a week, you're chained to the theater. So it's like, you know, releasing that and being out in the world, I'm getting to sort of see the reverberation and the ripples effect of the show, you know, when I'm in places where, you know, when I'm in Iowa or when I'm in, you know, Kansas really cool. Or when I'm, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, that's a big thing.
Sure. I mean, along with the more standard, getting recognized on the street, like the fame aspect of it.
Yeah.
Which is fun, uncomfortable, just trippy.
I'll say, I mean, I have a few friends that have gone out to LA, and like I was out there for 10 years. And when you're out there, especially in the beginning, you're really rolling the dice. You don't know. I auditioned for a lot of stuff that I would have happily taken if it came. And any one of those things could have been the thing that makes you. Yeah. Right? And,
funny, yeah.
You know, I shudder to think at some of those things, you know, like you shudder.
Well, and you bailed on a leading role in a TV show to do Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
And because you knew, well, you didn't know it would be that big a hit, but you knew about the material. You really felt that in your gut, right?
Yeah. I felt the way so many of your listeners felt, and the way, you know, the way so many people that I meet feel. I loved the material. And so it's like, I hadn't felt that way about material since Rent. You know, I hadn't fallen for a piece of work like that since Rent. And so I heard this quote a long time ago that an artist spends their whole life trying to get back to the place where their heart was first opened up.
Yes.
And I was back in Hamilton put me back in that place. And so there's nowhere else when you find that place, you stay there.
Yeah.
So,
and of course that place is in the theater, you know, like of course it's there in musical theater.
Yeah. For me, it was, you know, there's just something about the interdisciplinariness of it, you know, the fact that there's no parts of myself that I have to leave at the door. Yeah. You know, in Murder on the Orient Express, it's a really cool, fun thing, you know, but there, you know, I don't get to, you know, singing is one of the things that makes me come alive. Yeah. And I don't get to do that on most film sets or most television sets. So, you know, a place like the theater, you know, just uses all of me.
Definitely. Well, definitely in a part like that.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm wondering too, when you play Aaron Burr and you play him for as long as you did, and you develop him and essentially create him. It's funny because he's a real person, but I think of you as someone who just created him.
Sure.
But it's the kind of role where you talk about 100%. I mean, it's just your sweat, blood, and tears all over the stage every night, using every ounce of energy in your body. What next role could compare? Like, how do you then view, is there like a next level of a dream role, or like...
That's a great question.
Are you looking for the next challenge? Like, how do you then move on?
I gave myself this, I let myself off the hook, and I let the business off the hook in this way. I said, it's taken me, let's be generous and say 15 years. Really, it's been 20 years. You know, 20 years in the professional theater at this point. But, you know, when I found Hamilton, it was about 15 years. You know, it took me about 15 years to find that part.
Yeah.
In the theater. And so let me give myself at least another 15 to find the next one. Okay. You know, like they don't come around that often. Yeah. And so the goal in the meantime is to stay busy and to stay creative and to keep learning so that I'm ready when it comes. You know, there was a lot of all the jobs that I did helped me get ready for Hamilton. Oh, yeah. You know, they all mattered. Yeah. But yeah, it took me a minute to find that. So yeah, let me give myself 15 years in film to
Absolutely.
learn this thing and to get better and keep, and experiment and work with cool people and fail and all that.
Yeah.
Let me give myself a second to get my bearings in this new place.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Because how else are you going to recover from the hangover of Hamilton?
Oh my God, you have to recover from it. It took me about a year.
I'm sure.
It took me about a year to sober up. That's a great and then it was the best, it's the best high.
Yeah,
it's the best,
high.
that you could feel.
Yeah.
But
it culminated in you winning the Tony Award.
Yeah. Outside of, getting married and having a kid, of course, which those are highs as well. Way,
well, and the timing of having a kid was I think good for this period of your life too, I think.
Yeah. But even there was something about Hamilton that's unlike the it doesn't compare it anyway, right? So we don't need to compare it. But there's something about the fact that I remember I realized that at the public, Hamilton is, the energy of that show when it was at its apex, for us anyway, at its zenith. It was like, it's not like we're doing all this work to get to perform at the Grammys. No. The Grammys are every night.
Yeah.
We have to do the Grammys every night.
Yes,
we have to do the White House performance every night.
Totally. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like my wedding was we were punch drunk. We were dizzy. We were so happy and excited and tired and in love on that day.
Yeah.
But then the next day we didn't have to like do the wedding day again. You know what I mean? We didn't have to, the day Lucy was born was like amazing.
Yeah.
And it had all these surprises and it was unfolding. And then she was here.
Right.
And it was like, we didn't have to do the day she was born again. Like with the theater, unlike a movie, with theater, you have to go back to that place and remake it every night. When we performed that show, like Beyonce was there or like Barack Obama was there every single night. So, and that, we did that for I don't know how many. I did over 400 shows.
Right.
So over 400 times it was that. So coming down off the high took a little longer than
right. It must, yeah. I mean, it doesn't even sound sustainable.
Yeah,
how you did it.
It's beautiful. There's no complaints about it. I definitely felt like towards the end of my contract, it did feel like, the wheels were about to come off. I mean, I felt like I was rattling to the end. You know what I mean? There was a little bit of a rattle. Yeah. I definitely needed a rest. My body I was holding it together towards the end there. You talk about sustainability, but for the most part,
it's more than Olympic athletes. I mean, it's similar to Olympic athletes. If you really are at that level, you gotta keep maintaining that level, and you can't ease up. And it is emotional. The high sustains itself, I feel like, for 8 shows a week. You just kind of keep getting there.
Yeah.
And of course, you're in a room with a bunch of collaborators who you trust and love, and they help get you there. So.
Oh my God, yeah. There was that thing too. There was this beautiful equation that, like, I don't know if it exists anywhere in the world, but somewhere in the Richard Rodgers Theater, whatever your contribution was, it came out on the other side, and it was enough.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like somewhere in the, like you're at, you're in the dumps, your body's, you got nothing left to offer. But somehow or another, after it gets filtered through, that stage and, and Philippa has her part and Lynn does his part and David and Renee and Oak and Anthony and Jasmine. After it goes through that equation, it comes out on the other side and it was enough.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful time.
Oh, of course. Could you describe, of course you've described this moment before, but could you just describe, you were at Vassar College and you were watching the reading of Hamilton for the first time.
Yeah.
And the moment that you knew, like, this was that Rent moment of like, oh, this is unlike anything I've...
Oh, my God. I mean, it was, yeah, they were doing the reading of the first act, and I was probably, 12 bars in, those first...
Oh, the very first number.
Yeah, those first, how does a bastard orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by probably... that first little Aaron Burr section, you're already, like, you're sitting straight up. You're sitting straight up because you're like, this feels profound, right? There's something special that's happening here. And then it's a game you're playing with yourself where it's like, well, surely they can't sustain this.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? So I'm waiting to come down off the cliff. I'm waiting, like, what's the number that's going to be shaky?
Yeah.
Where, I'm sure they don't have the whole thing figured out. So this is really great, but that, and then then like the story of tonight happens, and I've said this before, but, as a fan of the genre, as a fan of theater, seeing 4 men of color on a stage singing about friendship and brotherhood was something that I'd never seen before. Yep. To me, that was the revolution. Yeah. And so, like...
That's part of Hamilton's revolution.
The story of tonight is the 4th song in the show, and I'm like, I'm in, right? Totally. And then there's Satisfied, and then there's Wait For It, and then there's Dear Theodosia.
And that's all just the first act.
It's just like, you just can't believe that they can sustain that level of excellence, and he does.
Totally. Well, and you mentioned, too, this idea of, like, the day of your wedding and the day of your child being born as these huge life events that can't be compared to anything else. Right. In the course of Hamilton, those things are happening. You're depicting a character who, I don't know how many years of Aaron Burr it is in his life. I guess it's all the way to the end of his life, technically. Yeah. So decades.
Yes, decades.
And all of those events are happening in the show. Satisfied is an entire play in one song.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that bonded us, I think, to each audience, because by the end of it, we've lived so much life together.
Yes.
It's 3 hours and some change, I guess. Yeah. But so there's that literal time that we've spent together, but also, David's track alone. I mean, like, they've seen him play 2 different people, and they're so different. And like, they've seen Philippa's journey from like teenage girl to, scorned lover to
building the orphanage.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's just, by the end of it, they're like, you're my people. I was talking to my book editor today. I'm writing a book.
Oh my gosh,
I know. Yeah, I was talking to my book editor, and we were talking about Amy. I didn't get to see Amy after the show, but she was like, "So you've probably met her before." And I said, "Yeah, I met her after the show a few times." And the thing about Hamilton was, I've realized how lucky we were to be meeting people after Hamilton, because they were. Like, we were meeting people at their best. I wasn't meeting people in a coffee shop when they're busy or, in an audition room. I was meeting everyone that I met was after they felt like they had this wonderful experience, and they were opened up. Their hearts were opened up, and they felt bonded to us. And so that was also a great gift.
Yeah, it's rare to like meet that just a succession of celebrities in that context.
In that space, right?
After they've just had like an intense exercise in empathy.
Right. It was I met less than a handful of jerks. I won't name any names, but they're literally less than one handful of people, like, kind of felt like,
they weren't sold on it.
Yeah, they weren't affected.
It's weird. That's weird. All right. Let's ask about, I got to ask you about Murder on the Orient Express.
Sure.
How did you get involved? And what's your relationship with Agatha Christie?
I got a phone call, an email about it probably a month or so after I left the show, that Ken was interested in me for this part. Oh, cool. And that, unlike other things, it was like, you're kind of the only one that he's interested in. So he wants you to make a tape, but he saw Hamilton, and, you're the one he wants for this part. And so that actually did kind of like the opposite of what you might expect. It just, for me, it felt like, at first it was like, oh, great. And then it was like, what do I have to do on this tape to live up to, because I essentially still had to audition, but it was like,
So he saw Hamilton, but he wants to see like some tape of something else.
I had to make I had to do material from the movie, so it's like, how good does this have to be?
Right.
You know what I mean? It just felt like a lot of pressure.
The ultimate self-tape, yeah.
Yeah, so it felt like a lot of pressure. So I put it off for a while, and then, I kind of woke up in the middle of the night one night. I was like, okay, I need to focus on this thing. It's an opportunity. And it was also, as you can imagine, it was really difficult. The process, it was part of that sobering up process was pulling myself, extracting myself from that show, in like this thing that I'd loved so much and I'd sacrificed for, and it just had just been such a, thing. I felt a little bit flung to the mat. So it was a little bit challenging throwing myself emotionally into something else. It's like, even though it wasn't, I was essentially, splitting up from Hamilton. It was amicable. It was, there was no, it was, kind of a, I think it's time for us to both move on kind of thing. Right. But it was still like, I got to go dating again.
Dating somebody else.
You know what I mean? It was like, I don't know if I feel like this blind date right now. So
with somebody so different.
Yeah.
Like, anything's going to be different, I guess. But.
Of course. So that's, that's still sometimes hard. I have to like really, invest, throw yourself into this. You never know what can come from it. So, but yeah, I got that call. I made the tape, and then I had a phone call with Ken. And after the phone call, it was mine. Yeah.
At what point did you know that some of the biggest movie stars in the entire industry were also in it?
I kind of knew then. Everybody wasn't cast, but I knew that Ken was in it. I knew Judi Dench was in it.
Cool.
I knew Ken, Judi, and at that time, I think it was rumored that Angelina Jolie was going to do it.
The Michelle Pfeiffer role?
Yeah, I think that was the rumor. So that was enough for me. I was like, but really Ken was enough for me because, I was very interested in doing more film work. Those were doors that were not open to me prior to Hamilton. So as you can imagine, it's like, what did I want to do after Hamilton? I wanted to do stuff that I couldn't do before Hamilton.
Yeah.
Show me the list of things that nobody would have ever let me do before this 2-year journey.
Totally.
So this was one of them, and to work with somebody like Ken who who's traversed the worlds of theater and film, both sides of the table, both sides of the equation, so successfully.
Yeah.
I was
extraordinary.
Like, there's nobody better for me to learn from, and he was enough, but everybody else was icing on the cake.
It was bonus, yeah. You and Daisy Ridley were really, really lovely together.
Hey, thanks.
She's amazing.
Good old Daisy.
The thing about this film, it's such a fun film, and it's such a great ensemble. It's a piece of ensemble acting.
Yeah.
And what fascinates me about, I guess specifically an Agatha Christie story, is obviously there's Hercule, and he's the main character, and of course
You said that so well.
Did I really?
Way better than I do. Yeah, that's so good.
Wow, I was winging it. I've been speaking all day. I can't even believe that I pulled that off. So obviously he's the big character, and then when you have a huge cast of suspects, but also I think a huge cast of big stars, it's interesting to see everyone kind of gets 1.5 scenes basically.
Yeah.
To do the the one Inquisition scene, and then maybe another thing, and then I guess there's a big last scene. I don't know how spoilery we want to be, but you have several, and you and Daisy actually are two of the bigger of the supporting, and it's interesting to see who gets to kind of take that. And Josh Gad has a really meaty.
He's got some nice stuff.
Scene, and I mean, what is the supporting role to you?
Well, I just looked at it as I had just come from being a part of a fabulous ensemble, where I hope that we shared the stage. I know that we shared the stage just as much as we took the stage. That was part of the thing, it's part of the vibe. Yeah. And so I was very excited at the prospect of doing that again. Of course, I didn't know how those other big movie stars were going to affect the thing.
Yeah. Their styles, their approach.
If they would be into that. But I was very excited about it. And to my surprise, they were all excited about it too. Everybody was excited to work with Judi. You know what I mean? God, Michelle Pfeiffer cried when she met Judi Dench.
Cool.
So
that's so cool.
So yeah, we were all fans of each other. I mean, Penelope Cruz, what a movie star.
Penelope Cruz.
What a movie star. And Willem Dafoe, my God. Willem's got, tiny moments in the movie, but I'll just, what he's doing with the amount of material that he's giving, you know, and Williams, he's Oscar nominated. I mean, he's, you know, he don't need to have a whole lot to do in every movie, but it was a real gift to see him in process. He's special.
Well, and were you all sharing the quarters of an actual train?
Yeah.
Pretty close quarters?
Yeah, it's close quarters for weeks at a time.
And how do you act suspicious?
How do you try your best. You try your best not to act suspicious.
Ooh, okay. Oh, it's kind of like playing drunk.
That's right.
You try to play like you're drunk, but you're trying to be sober.
That's right. Yeah. You try your best not to act suspicious.
Cool.
And you know, I had plenty of nerves on the set, plenty of reasons to be terrified. So I just allowed that to be, you know, sort of present. I tried to, you know, that discomfort and that, you know, that disquiet, I just allowed to be there.
Yeah.
Let myself alone.
Accept it. Don't like suppress it and have it come popping out or whatever. Yeah, that's good advice. That's good advice actually for actors who are new to film or new to sets. So I imagine it's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah. And there's something about, you know, you can't hide it anyway. There's something about the, you know, I remember, again, I won't say any names, but I remember working with this actress who I actually thought in life, I'm always learning, man. The TV and film thing is just, I love it. I'm so glad, I'm so grateful that I get to learn on the job, that you know, that it's not, they don't shut me out and make me learn these things in you know, in my bedroom. But there was this actress a working actress that I thought was kind of shaky in life. I mean, I just found her like sort of, like, you're just like, are you okay? Like she just was always sort of a little trembly, a little, I just think that was just her natural state. I don't know why, but she's just a little sort of off balance slightly or something. And I didn't know if that was like just on this job or whatever, but the camera picked that up. I didn't realize, but the camera read that as vulnerability.
This is amazing. I should ask you one more question, just and get you on your way. I believe you're on your way to an audition. I'm
on my way to an audition.
That's so good to hear. Can you say anything about it?
I shouldn't, just because, you know, like...
How many auditions are happening and what are you going out for?
I don't audition often. Yeah. I audition, and that's just because we are thankfully, you know, pretty picky about things. But I'm still willing to audition for something that's, you know, cool enough. And so yeah, the audition process is you know, if that is changed in any way, it's just that I use my voice a little bit more. If there's something that I need, you know, I'm going to speak up. Like today, I was supposed to go in with the casting director, but I actually, as I was preparing for it, and I haven't had enough time to prepare. If I'm not, you know, I'm busy. Like I haven't had enough time to prepare. So there was that, but there was also like the material is kind of it's a tricky kind of weird tone, you know, it's a dark comedy tone. And so I was like, you know what, actually I need a little bit more control over if I'm gonna go through the business of auditioning, right? And like they're gonna give it to me or they're not. Let me not have the added pressure of like somebody else's time, somebody else putting me on a time clock and somebody else, you know, they're lighting. No, I'm gonna make my own tapes. I'm gonna go down to Soho and self-tape for this thing and tape it as many times as I need to until I feel good about it. And we'll send that in. And, you know, and that way, you know, you can wash your hands of it and there's no regrets. You know, and you can let things be what they're going to be. And
that assertiveness maybe is not typical earlier in your acting career. That's not really going to be something that you...
Some of that stuff is not possible, right? Earlier, that's for sure. But you know, the more dues you pay, you can. There's still things you can say. This is sort of important. You know, I think what we're seeing. One of the things that we're seeing with all these, you know, sexual misconduct allegations and all that stuff, you know, we're learning a lot about positions of power, right? You know, I think men in positions of power are learning a lot about how to be better, and that you know things can be exposed about you and like right. But I hope that what people that what women in particular, but also it's not just women, right? We've seen that it's, there's also been men that have come out that said, this has happened to me too, is that we're gonna learn to use our words even when we're not in power. I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
Just
advocating.
Because some of these situations we're hearing about, these weren't people that were tied down. These were not people that were some of them were, but some of the situations we're hearing about, this is just a person that was like, that didn't know how to say
what
no,
step to take.
how to say, which is understandable. But again, we're going to move that forward too. I want my kid to be able to, I want her to know how to say, not only do I want her to be able to protect herself physically, right? If somebody wants, but what about if it's not physical? If it's mental, if it's emotional, you have to have the fortitude, that strength of character, that, knowledge of yourself to say, I'm not comfortable with this.
To set your own boundaries. I
don't like this, and I want to leave. Right?
Sure. Yeah, it's like it's a self-worth thing. It's like I deserve these boundaries.
Yeah.
I have a basic level of safety that I require.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that's violating that, like you're saying, it can be really tough to hear that or to know
that it's okay to say those things.
Totally.
And it I think that, once you start working on this stuff anywhere in your life, it affects everywhere in your life. If you take, take a little bit more charge of it's not about being rude or anything. You take a little bit more charge of how your audition experience goes,
Sure.
It's like, there's ways to do it. There's things to take a stand about. Actually, I would like to do that scene again if you have the time.
Yeah.
I want to go again if that's okay.
It asserts yourself.
I want to, I don't have, I have to get to work. I don't have 45 more minutes to wait. And so can I come back tomorrow? Can I self-tape? Those kinds of things, using your voice. And, you do that in your life, it will show up in your work. You do it in your work, it'll show up in your life.
Lovely. Anyway. Wonderful. Yes. Any last parting words of wisdom for Backstage listeners of this podcast?
Hey, good luck. Do your best work. Love yourself. Be kind to each other. I'll see you soon.
Leslie Odom Jr., thank you so much for joining us. It's really wonderful.
Thanks, Jack.
One thing I will say about that interview, Jamie, is that I did not get Leslie to sing or try to convince him to. I didn't feel...
Missed opportunity.
I guess so. I mean, he sings all the time in all these concerts, and I felt like I didn't want to put him on the spot. I don't know.
We may have had some copyright issues as well.
That's true. That's also true. That's also true. But here we are in a recording studio. He's got the voice of a god.
That was the first thing my wife said when I said to her that he was coming on the podcast, and she was like, "Can you get him to sing?"
Oh, I know. Crap. He really does have the most extraordinary voice, and singing as well as speaking, and he's also just has brilliant words with that voice.
Yes, lovely man.
Lovely man. Leslie, you can come back anytime.
Yep.
Every couple of years.
Just as long as you sing.
Check in. Maybe next time we'll get you to sing, if that's all right. Yeah, I know. That's the thing when you're the star of Hamilton specifically, but also just any musical theater star. You're going to be expected to.
Well, if we schedule it for your birthday, you can maybe get him to sing you happy birthday, because now it's out of copyright as well.
There's no copyright issues with the birthday song. All right, this is a good way to plan next year. Yeah. We can plan for my birthday. All right. This podcast, I think, should last long enough that we swing back around for Leslie's next giant wave of success.
Yeah. It comes in cycles, doesn't it, with these things? So another 18 months, 2 years, he'll be on the crest of a wave again.
Well, and like he said in that interview, like the thing about starring in something like Hamilton and it being so everything, it being so in-depth in so many different aspects of his life, and being okay with waiting for it. It's a reference to Hamilton. Waiting for it, for that next potential opportunity. It might take another 15 years of work before you get something as brilliant as Aaron Burr.
You can't expect to hit the jackpot with every project. No, right. That's right.
Thank you so much, Leslie, for joining us.
Yeah.
It is, as always, a pleasure. Is that the end of our show?
Yeah.
Let's roll credits.
Yep.
Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe for more interviews from the front lines of the industry's awards races. In the Envelope is recorded at Lotus Productions and Hyperbolic Audio in New York City. Thanks, as always, to producer, editor, and all-around podcast whiz, Jamie Muffett. You can follow him on Twitter at JamieMusicNYC. You can follow me, Jack Smart, on Twitter at JackSmartWrites. Thank you, of course, to the team at Backstage, the most trusted name in casting. That's Peter Rappaport, Mark Stinson, Francis Ramos, Rawaan Alkhatib, and especially the astounding Kasey Howe. For more awards and industry coverage, head over to Backstage.com. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time for another glimpse in the Envelope.